And Elk, I'll let you introduce your friend, because if we want to find out about this golf course, we have got the best person to tell us.
We do indeed. Another Scottish person on the show with me today. This is getting overbearing. My friend Bruce Davidson's on the show today. Bruce is the, Bruce, what are you? What's your official?
Director of golf for the Friedkin Group, Elkie, but you can call me anything you like.
Bruce Davidson and I have been friends for, about
too long.
35, 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah. Bruce was at St. Thomas University when I was at the University of Houston. Then he went and worked for Dick Harmon at River Oaks. And now he had this new project that he went over and built Congaree from the ground up. And we're going to talk to you about it today, Bruce. I actually haven't been on site. I'm going to be up there on Sunday evening with you to do an event on Monday. But first of all, why don't you tell us, how this came about and what is it, Congaree?
Well, Congaree was an upshot of 20 years of John McNeely and I talking about, golf is such a great game, such a great sport where people are philanthropic in nature and give back. And wouldn't it be great if we could end our careers building a course together where it was more than just normal member stuff? And of course, taking an idea like that, and someone needs to have the vision to build upon that idea. And one day I talked to Dan Friedkin about it, and he said, I love the idea, but it's got to be the best golf course built in the last 100 years. So no pressure there. And then Bob McNair, who passed away sadly a couple of years ago, he heard about it and he went to Dan and said, you can't do this in South Carolina without me. We had sort of found this property. So all of a sudden, John and I had these two fantastic businessmen, obviously wealthy guys, but more than that, they had vision and they basically allowed us to do what they said, which was to create the best experience in golf. So John and I found this property in 2013. We bought it in 2014. That's a royal we, obviously, Mr. McNair and Mr. Friedkin. And we've just spent the last 7 years loving this place and trying to make it the best golf course. And recently we've been lucky enough to be awarded some nice accolades. We just broke into the top 100 in Golf Digest at 39, which is pretty good first time around. We were voted by the same magazine the best golf course built in the last 15 years. Best clubhouse, da-da-da-da-da-da. But what's cool about it, Elkie, is we're all golfers. We maybe can't play anymore. Maybe I probably could never play compared to you, but we love to play. And it's a great course. I mean, it's really, really a great course. And it sort of reminds me of the Heathland courses of Great Britain and some of the Sandbelt courses in Australia, which is why I'm dying for you to come down and play it. And it's just a meld of interesting golf holes, hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's a fantastic golf course.
And of course, you brought in Tom Fazio to do this course, and he was the designer, and you guys were right on his hip the whole time. And what are the players going to see on their first look at Congaree? What is it? It's a par 72. Is it long? Is it narrow? Give us a style.
It's going to be played at a par 71. It is a par 72. But because of our tees, we have these back tees that go to 7,800 yards. They're not going to play there. The tour's told us, I think, somewhere in the 75 range. Okay. And so therefore, 8 is going to be playing as a par 4 at about 500 yards instead of a par 5 at 580. Now, for these guys to hit it so far, it doesn't matter. Our generation, how far these kids hit it now. It's like they hit their 3 irons off the tee, 290. But it's more than that. And I was thinking about this interview last night, and I remember that you and I played together, or we were together at the Seminole Pro Member maybe 15 years ago. And you said something to me that I've never forgotten about Seminole. And you said, best second shot values in golf. And I think we are up there with Seminole and best second shot values in golf, because if you get out of position around the greens, as Claude Harmon used to say, if you get your ambition and your ability all mixed up, you go for a pin that you shouldn't go and you short side yourself, par's hard.
Okay.
And you know that. I mean, it's major championship stuff, and that's what this is.
Okay, so you talk about the fact that the tour want you to play it as a 7,500-yard course. How important is distance going to be off the tee? Is that something that is a big factor?
Well, that depends on Mother Nature. We've prided ourselves fast and firm. I mean, last week I was praying for rain because it was a dust storm every day. It hadn't rained in like 8 weeks. And the last 2 days it's rained 3 inches. So our golf course is greened up and the ball's not, and I'm not exaggerating. People have come from all over the world and played Congaree and said, I've never played a faster golf course. I've putted on the 17th hole from 102 yards short of the green onto the green. Now it's slightly downhill, but the fairways normally stimp about 9. Now with the rain, that's going to soften them up a little bit. And I actually think that if we can keep the greens firm and fast, and our average daily speed is about 13, I don't know if the tour will let us keep them at that. They might want us to slow down, and maybe the rain and the humidity will slow them down a little bit. But I actually think with the rain, and if it stops, it'll be a little longer. And if you have the firm greens and the fairways are a little wetter, I actually think that's harder.
Okay.
So, we've all talked internally about what the score will be and to win. I'm not going to say what I think, but I think a really, really good player will win. We tasked Tom Fazio at the beginning. We said, Tom, we want the best player to win, the most complete player to win if we ever have a tour event here, because that was always Mr. Freakin and Mr. McNair's wishes, that we host a big event. This, in fact, is proof of concept for us, I believe, because we finished second recently to Medina when they re-awarded the 2026 President's Cup, which is pretty good for a fledgling golf course, but second's not good enough for Mr. Freakin. So this is a proof of concept, I think, to the PGA Tour that we can actually handle an event. But we said to Tom Fazio, so you have to move the ball both ways. You can't just draw it. You can't just fade it. You can't just hit it up in the air. You got to hit it on the ground. The ground game is important here because there are some pins that if you land it on the green and on the front of the green, you'll go over the back of the green. It's a real front yardage course.
When you have fast fairways, it bounces in the fairway, and if you're offline, it can go into trouble. And I'm looking at the pictures behind Diane there, Bruce. You've got a fair bit of sand, mate. And what happens when the ball runs off these fairways? Where does it go? Is it a rough situation, or does it go into sort of this backland South Carolina sandy conditions?
It's a toss of a coin. So if you hit it in, the fairways are I think the average fairway width, Elk, is 45 yards, which is generous. But like Pine Valley and like some of the, like Muirfield, Scotland, it doesn't look that wide sometimes when you're on the tee. It's a kind of an illusion. But they are fairly generous. But if you run off the fairway, you can have a great lie. And you can have a flat, tight, packed sand lie that you can get a 3-iron on. Or if you get one of these Tiftons, you get one of these little love grass things, you'll be chipping out. So the tour has gone through, and we have, quote unquote, softened it a little bit in those areas so that the guys don't get terrible lies. But if you miss a fairway, it's not good. But the value to Congaree is the second shot. If you get the ball on the wrong side of the green, for example, you're maybe taking a 3-putt into account, or some of the par 3s with the water in front. If you hit it long and the pin's in the front, you putt it in the water.
So it's as you said, when I think of, you've told me this a lot about Congaree, like Royal Melbourne, where it is a second shot course. You have to, you're looking up into these Fazio designs, sculptured out, I'm sure, and now you've got to try to get this ball somehow next to the flag. Now, we know the tour players have plenty of height, they have plenty of spin. Does it get windy down there too, or is it what sort of conditions can the players expect next week?
No, we've looked at the forecast, and unfortunately the forecast is for pop-up storms most days, 30%, nothing more than that. We hope, the beauty of Congaree is we chose the site because we found about a 300-acre sand belt. So wherever we looked in the trees, there was sand. I don't know what happened here hundreds of millions of years ago, but it was sand deposited. So it drains. And then we sand capped it. So we put 2 feet of sand cap on top of 8 feet of sand. So it rained all day yesterday, and you could have driven carts on the course yesterday afternoon if you wanted. I think what they're going to find with, bless you, I think what they're going to find with the when they play with the conditions is it will be hot and humid. It'll be about 90 degrees. And of course, we all know that makes the ball go further. But I don't think the fairways are going to run quite as much as they normally do. And the greens might be a tad softer than we normally keep them. So therefore, it's probably not going to be as difficult as it would have been. If they'd played 2 weeks ago, I'd have absolutely guaranteed you that 5 or 6 under par would have won for the week. Absolutely guaranteed. Depending where they put the pins now. If they put 18 middle pins, we can't control that. And the PGA controls the pins. But if you'll see on Monday, Elk, when we play, I mean, if you tucked every pin, you can't finish. I mean, it's like a longer Pine Valley or a longer Seminole.
So we all know, for example, when we look at Augusta on TV, we sort of know how you make a score at Augusta. You've sort of got to get off to a good start, hole number 2 at Augusta. You've got to get through to the 7th hole. And then when you get to the back 9, of course, you've got these 2 par 5s where a lot of scoring happens. How do you score? How do you make a score on Congaree? Tell us the style or tell us the feel, how you put together a score.
Well, I can tell you what I've seen. I've seen 2 very well-known tour players who came out here and played, and I watched them play. And one of them was 4 under after 4, and one of them was 5 under after 5. And they turned to me and kind of gave me I thought this was hard. And I said, well, course starts now on 6. Okay. So the first 5 holes, I think it's important to make a score. You have to be good through the first 5 holes because this from 6 through 9 are now 6 through 9 are hard, and then there's a little bit of respite. 12's a par 5 that Adam Scott's favorite hole. It's not long, but it's a small green, so like 4,000 square feet. And then 13 through 18, pretty tricky again. So I don't think anybody's going to turn at level par and shoot 5 under. Okay.
So what did those boys finish that got off to such hot start? Were they able to? What's the course record at Congaree currently?
Well, this is our 3rd year, and so far we've had 5 guys break 70 from the tips. Wow. And there was 166, which happened to be on a very wet day where the fairways were soft and the greens were soft. So that one gentleman shot 69 and the other guy birdied the last to make par.
Wow.
To shoot par.
Okay.
So I'll finish with this, Bruce. Diane and I, we spent a fair amount of time on our show working together of how, who's going to do well next week. What would be the club in your bag that you have to play well at Congaree, or rank them one, is it putting, then driving, or iron? Give us what you have to absolutely have to do well at Congaree.
Got to be pin high for sure. That's going to, whoever, he's not going to play, so I can say his name, but I would pick Bernard Lang around here every week. A guy who doesn't make many mistakes and is pin high. But I think the critical club is the sand iron. And not because you want to grab it every time you miss the green, because we've got options here. You can hit a hybrid, you can putt from off the green, which most of us do all the time. But if you don't have a good bunker game, you can't get around here.
Okay, good tip. What a great couple of weeks. And you must really feel it, for golf in South Carolina with the PGA at Kiowa being such a success and having such an amazing champion. There must be a great buzz about golf in your part of the US.
Yeah, kudos to the governor of South Carolina, Governor McMaster. We went to see him when we got the nod to try and do the President's Cup. And he was 100% supportive. So when we got a whisper from the tour this time around that there might be an opportunity to do a COVID event, this wasn't the first one we talked about. It was the Mexican one, and it wasn't the right time. And the tour made the right decision in going to Florida because we had a very cold, wet winter here, and it wouldn't have been pleasant for the guys to play in February. But when we got the whisper, we went directly to Governor McMaster and had a meeting with him up in the government buildings up there in Columbia and said, we can do this, but we'd love to do this in partnership with the state of South Carolina. And it was a 2-second. He said, we are in. And so, he had the foresight to see what this could do for the state. There are so many golf courses here, Dan, so many golf courses in South Carolina, really good ones too. We like to think this one is the best one, this in Kiowa. And I'm excited for the world to see our golf course and to hear our mission, which is really, we haven't talked about that today, but we're a philanthropic club. And the whole purpose of the club is to raise money for kids who are underprivileged or well-deserving. And not only who play golf, but in the local community, we've made a big difference in things that we've done. Bought 9-hole golf courses. We had no kids at the high school playing golf. We've got 250 kids playing golf now. And it's really a good story. And if anybody's watching this podcast, then you ought to Google Congaree and see what it's about, because for Dan Friedkin and Bob McNair to have the vision to do this it's been an unbelievable project to be part of.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so good to hear.
Well, yeah, it is amazing. You and I have talked about this project for years, and I'm looking forward to be with you on Sunday to watch the finish of this exciting event. All the tour players on tour, I was speaking to a bunch of them at Colonial last week. They're all excited. They've only seen the pictures, and we're looking at Diane behind her there, a lot of sand.
We're really looking forward to it. I talked to Ian Poulter last night, and he's excited. And, you know, a lot of really good players are playing. Obviously, we got Dustin Johnson to commit early, which was terrific for our event, because he is a South Carolinian, as everyone knows. Brooks Koepka's committed. I hear Webb Simpson may, waiting on him, but Kevin Kisner. Look at the strength of the field we had 72 days. I mean, 72. Yeah. We had 72 days. There's a reason you get a year, and we had 72 days. So whatever happens, I think it's going to be great.
Amazing.
Well, Bruce, mate, well, thank you for your time this morning. I know you've been busy. I know you're frazzled, but I'll buy you a beer Sunday, mate.
That's good. That would be a first.
And we'll sit down and watch the boys come in on 18 and see what kind of...
You got a deal, mate. You got a deal.